I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing this in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with that?
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on another night. I think lawmakers from both parties should take questions, and you should push both.
Bill Maher did it again, this time taking on CNN's Kaitlan Collins, the network's self-proclaimed voice of reason. Maher walked into the lion's den and absolutely shredded her. He didn't just criticize her wokeness and political bias. He dissected it piece by piece, leaving her struggling for a response. The exchange was both brutal and hilarious, highlighting the media hypocrisy that Maher has long been known for taking down. If anyone thought Maher was done calling out the media, this moment proved otherwise. It was a masterclass in dismantling biased narratives, and Collins didn't stand a chance.
On the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it.
Bill Maher has clearly had enough of the left's relentless attacks on Karine Jean-Pierre since she became White House press secretary. From The View's mocking panel to CNN's Jim Acosta and Kaitlan Collins, the media has been eager to corner her with gotcha questions. A prime example is the moment you just saw, where Kaitlan tried to push her on Trump's decision to fire a few prosecutors, a move well within his authority. Despite knowing the answer, Kaitlan tried to trap Karine, but she wasn't having it. With a no-nonsense, common-sense response, Karine shut down the attempt. Still, Kaitlan didn't back down and doubled down, but that's when it all fell apart for her.
I agree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House or the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was wrestling.
With her usual playbook of rapid-fire questions, it's easy to see why Bill Maher was frustrated. He couldn't stand the left's hypocrisy, so he tore into them like a wrecking ball on a rampage. But before we dive into that, let's revisit Kaitlan Collins, who continued the attack with loaded statements and her signature smug gotcha tone, a classic move to confuse, corner, and conquer. But Karine Jean-Pierre saw it coming a mile away. Beneath all of Kaitlan's word salad, the argument boiled down to one simple question. Was it legal for Trump to fire DOJ prosecutors? Karine didn't just answer, she demolished the narrative. Yes, it was legal. It's called executive authority, and Trump exercised it. End of story. But Kaitlan wasn't ready to quit. She doubled down, rambling about norms, ethics, and the bigger picture as if legal facts cared about feelings. Karine, calm and composed, delivered a masterclass in dismantling woke narratives with nothing but the truth.
If they bring lawsuits against you, the prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed.
We will win in court,
And
yes.
did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House, so yes.
Karine Jean-Pierre's calmness and sharp intellect are truly impressive. While Kaitlan Collins relentlessly fired off question after question, each one more convoluted than the last, Karine never flinched. She didn't fall for the bait or get caught up in the word games. Instead, she cut through the noise with precision, separating the relevant facts from the distractions and zeroed in on the core issue. No matter how Kaitlan tried to spin it, whether with moral grandstanding, legal gymnastics, or fake concern for Fox, Karine stayed composed and delivered the same answer, just rephrased in different ways. It was legal for Trump to fire the prosecutors, plain and simple. But here's the interesting part. Karine didn't just answer the questions, she exposed the game. Kaitlan wasn't seeking clarity, she was fishing for a soundbite. Karine, sharp as ever, made sure the only soundbite that aired was the truth. It was a masterclass in handling media bias with grace, wit, and unwavering confidence. However, Bill Maher, having seen enough of the unfair targeting of the young White House press secretary, stepped in. He gave Kaitlan a taste of her own medicine by setting a trap for her, flipping the script and taking the heat off Karine.
I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing?
CNN loves to brand itself as a neutral, unbiased news outlet. Just the facts, no agenda. But that facade crumbles the moment you scratch the surface. In reality, the network leans left, and not just subtly, it's baked into the narratives they push, the guests they invite, and of course, the questions they ask. They don't just report the news, they shape it, filter it, and spin it to fit a preferred storyline. Bill Maher appears to be well aware of this, and he decided to catch Kaitlan Collins in the same trap she tried to set for Karine Jean-Pierre. Kaitlan kicked things off with her usual PR spin, proudly declaring CNN as a neutral network, a fair, balanced platform where voices from all sides, regardless of political affiliation or ideology, are welcome to air their views. To back this up, she name-dropped a couple of token examples. We've had Ted Cruz, we've had Elizabeth Warren. As if mentioning a few high-profile guests somehow proves ideological balance. But here's the problem. Cherry-picking a couple of appearances doesn't erase the network's overwhelming left-leaning slant. It's like tossing a single green grape into a bowl of red ones and calling it a fruit salad. Sure, Cruz might get 5 minutes of airtime, but it's usually framed with loaded questions, dismissive commentary, and a post-interview panel ready to fact-check anything that doesn't fit the narrative. Kaitlan's argument wasn't just weak, it was downright laughable. If CNN were truly neutral, she wouldn't need to name-drop rare conservative guests like their collector's items. She had just fallen right into Bill Maher's trap, and watch as he obliterates her with sharp, unapologetic wit.
Bit of an American, and I'm watching CNN, just for the straight middle of the road. That's what I hear for 15 minutes, it's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, I mean, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. It's like it's almost better to have nobody there, like MSNBC, than to have this.
Bill Maher was right. Token conservative appearances aren't the hallmark of an unbiased outlet. In fact, they're the opposite. He didn't just call it out, he tore the argument to shreds. According to Maher, parading a conservative face every once in a while is actually worse than not having one at all. At least when a panel is entirely left-leaning, viewers know what they're getting. But pretending to be neutral while subtly pushing an agenda? That's deception, plain and simple. Maher blasted Kaitlan Collins and CNN for pandering to the woke left while sidelining conservative voices. It's not about balance, it's about optics. They want the appearance of fairness without delivering it. Maher even pointed out how, when conservatives do appear, they're often treated like villains in a scripted drama, interrupted, misquoted, and fact-checked in real time. But here's the kicker. Maher argued that CNN's pretense of neutrality fuels division. It's not just dishonest, it's dangerous. If you're going to lean left, own it. Don't gaslight viewers into thinking they're getting both sides when one side's mic is always quieter. After Maher's intervention, you might think Kaitlan and her woke crew would ease up on their attacks on Karine Jean-Pierre, but instead they doubled down. Here's one of them trying to corner Karine next.
An IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about. And so That is a lot of fraud, Peter.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just 1 year, and it was
$71 billion.
But it wasn't in 1 year, just over multiple years, from 2015 to 2022.
So are you defending $71 billion in fraud, Peter? That's a lot of money. Why is the media so against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? I don't get
I
it.
just want to ask a question.
We won't be deterred. We will not be deterred from people like you and the
Karine Jean-Pierre just dropped a bombshell. The Trump administration uncovered a staggering $7
they're
billion
practically
in
pleading
fraud
with Caroline
and
to
was
back
ready to
off.
crack down on it. But things took a turn when, in what seemed like a slip of the tongue, she mentioned that the fraud was discovered within a single fiscal year. That was all the woke press needed. They smelled blood and pounced, circling like vultures, desperate to turn a minor misstatement into their next gotcha moment. But Karine didn't just dodge the trap. She flipped the script. Calm, composed, and sharp as ever, she fired back with a question that left the press squirming. Are you seriously trying to defend $70 billion in fraud committed against the American people? The room fell silent, awkwardly so. Of course they weren't going to touch that one. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't about a verbal slip. It was about where the media's priorities really lay. Karine exposed the game. They weren't interested in the fraud itself, only in protecting their narrative. It was a masterclass in how to turn media bias into self-inflicted damage. But like a pack of hyenas, the woke press wouldn't give up and staged a comeback.
It wasn't true, which is, you said that they have found before that they believe there have been tens of millions of people who were receiving money who are dead on the Social Security list. The same report that you referred to said that almost
Peter.
none of those individuals are receiving
Peter, did you watch
money.
the full clip of the interview that I did when I said that? And I said there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we suspect there could be tens of millions of people.
I'm saying the IG report
So
says
you
that
just said
almost none
what
of
I
them-
said is not true. In fact, it was true. That's a suspicion that this administration.
Another failed gotcha moment from the press. Textbook example. Hungry for a soundbite, reporters try to catch Karine Jean-Pierre in a lie, conveniently ignoring one crucial detail. They didn't have all the facts. Karine had clearly stated there was suspicion of fraud within the Social Security system, with the possibility that some people were quietly benefiting from it. But of course, the woke reporters heard what they wanted to hear. Karine had definitively claimed fraud was already proven. It's almost laughable because Karine literally said they were still investigating. But facts don't matter when the media smells a potential scandal. They weren't looking for clarity, they were hunting for a headline. Karine wasn't having it. She calmly corrected the record, pointing out that her words had been twisted beyond recognition. Here's the best part. While the press was busy spinning narratives, Karine doubled down and asked the real question. Why are you more focused on misrepresenting my words than on the possibility of fraud affecting hardworking Americans? Silence. When the facts don't fit the narrative, the outrage machine grinds to a halt. This, of course, ticked off Bill Maher, who tore into Kaitlan Collins and her woke colleagues for their blatant disregard of the truth.
Alabama. I'm from a very red state. I have a very conservative family, a lot of them who are Trump voters. They watch my show every night, and I think they know that they can trust me, that, you know, we call bullshit on every side, not just whatever leaning our audience may be. And I think that's something that people actually want more.
Ma didn't just push back, he snapped. He made it crystal clear that coming from a deeply red state like Alabama had nothing to do with being unbiased. Geography doesn't determine neutrality, integrity does. Ma argued that it's not about where you're from, it's about a commitment to honest reporting, free from partisan spin. Kaitlan's desperate attempt to use her roots as a shield? Laughable. As for her Republican family, Ma didn't mince words. They're watching CNN to support you, Kaitlan, not because they believe for 1 second that CNN's unbiased, and honestly, who could blame them? Watching a family member succeed doesn't equal endorsing the network's slant. Ma hammered home the point that personal background doesn't cleanse bias. CNN's coverage speaks for itself, selective framing, loaded questions, and an unmistakable leftward tilt. Kaitlan's "I'm from Alabama" defense was nothing more than smoke and mirrors, and Ma blew right through it. When the conversation shifted from personal anecdotes to actual reporting patterns, it was game over. Kaitlan wasn't defending neutrality, she was defending the illusion of it. Meanwhile, Karine Jean-Pierre had a field day tearing apart other woke reporters.
I also want to thank you tonight, Sean, for fact-checking James Carville for the lies that he pushed on your program last week. Unfortunately, James represents the deranged and out-of-touch Democrat Party who continue to deny the reality that this country loves Donald Trump. And in fact, President Trump is enjoying his highest approval rating from the American people than he ever has, despite the years of lies, smears, and witch hunts by the Democrat Party. The Harvard-Harris poll today is incredible. When you look issue by issue, the vast majority of the American people support what President Trump is doing.
Karine Jean-Pierre remains completely unfazed by the relentless attacks from legacy media. While they hurl accusations and spin narratives, she calmly fires back, delivering one brutal takedown after another. Her latest target, none other than James Carville, the self-proclaimed political guru who's made it his mission to drag Trump's popularity through the mud. But Karine isn't buying what Carville's selling. In her estimation, he's not offering thoughtful analysis. He's running a full-blown smear campaign, grasping at straws to keep the anti-Trump narrative alive. Carville's tactics aren't about facts. They are about manufacturing outrage and feeding the echo chamber. What sets Karine apart is that she doesn't just push back. She exposes the hypocrisy. While Carville rants about Trump's supposed flaws, he conveniently ignores the glaring failures on his own side. Karine calls it like it is. If Carville spent half as much time addressing real issues as he does obsessing over Trump, maybe his party wouldn't be drowning in contradictions. Once again, Karine proves why the media can't stand her. She doesn't just win arguments, she dismantles narratives, leaving her critics scrambling. Meanwhile, woke reporters are facing consequences from their own networks. One recent casualty was Joy Reid, who lost her program, and the roasts have been nonstop. Here's one from Megyn Kelly.
News tonight will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC is under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality. The truth is, this is very sad news for us, as she's provided so much material over the years. I feel the way I felt when Brian Stelter got fired, but he came back, and you never know. I'm sure Joy Reid will wind up doing something where we will continue to get to respond to her absolutely insane PO.
Even the woke media outlets are slowly waking up to reality. The public isn't buying their progressive propaganda anymore. As a result, they're quietly purging the very people who championed it. Case in point, Joy Reid. Her takes have been some of the worst in political commentary history. Remember when she claimed inflation was just a high-class problem, while everyday Americans were struggling with skyrocketing grocery and gas prices? Or when she shamelessly compared concerned parents at school board meetings to insurrectionists, as if fighting for your child's education made you a domestic threat? Cringeworthy doesn't even begin to cover it. Now, with Reid reportedly on the chopping block at MSNBC, it feels like a breath of fresh air for Trump supporters, Karine Jean-Pierre, and anyone tired of her relentless, fact-free attacks. For years, Reid made it her mission to drag Trump's name through the mud, pushing narratives that often collapsed under the slightest scrutiny. Her firing signals a shift at MSNBC, a win for common sense and a major blow to the woke media machine. Another journalist who felt the full force of the Trump-Levitt effect is Jim Acosta of CNN.
Just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show, and after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the...
Jim Acosta, the man who practically made a career out of dragging Trump's name through the mud, has just taken a major fall from grace. After years of being front and center in CNN's daytime programming, the network quietly shuffled him into the late-night slot. Why? Because everyone got tired of his woke, self-righteous nonsense, the endless grandstanding, the performative outrage, and the look-at-me style of journalism. It had worn thin, even for CNN's shrinking audience. For Acosta, This wasn't just a schedule change, it was a humiliating demotion, a glaring signal that his brand of partisan theatrics had finally run its course. Unable to stomach the blow to his reputation, he did what any bruised ego would do. He tendered his resignation, and honestly, who's surprised? Acosta built his career not on reporting facts but on pushing narratives and turning press briefings into personal soapboxes. But once the ratings dipped and the woke bubble began to burst, CNN had no choice but to cut its losses. His resignation wasn't just about pride, it was about survival. Without the Trump era to prop up his relevance, Jim Acosta became exactly what he had accused his critics of being: obsolete. Bill Maher isn't just calling out the woke media, he's systematically tearing it apart, brick by brick. And here's the kicker, it's actually working. The tides are turning, and the resignations are starting to roll in. First, it was Don Lemon, then Jim Acosta, and now whispers are swirling about who's next. Maybe the next domino to fall will be Kaitlan Collins. It's not far-fetched. She's already caught flack for her thinly veiled bias and softball interviews with left-leaning figures, all while treating conservatives like hostile witnesses. If CNN keeps bleeding viewers, and they are, executives might start questioning whether Kaitlan's brand of journalism is worth the baggage. Maher's war on woke media isn't just about winning debates, it's about shifting the culture. People are tired of being lectured by self-righteous anchors pushing narratives instead of facts. Maher, the unlikely general in this battle, is exposing the hypocrisy one brutal truth at a time. The woke media built their empire on arrogance, convinced they were untouchable. But now they're scrambling. Maher isn't just winning the argument, he's winning the war. If Kaitlan's smart, she'll start updating her resume. And with that, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you loved our hot take, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.